Hello everyone, welcome to episode 4 of Offbeat.
Welcome indeed. I hope everyone watching has their stomach filled with sweets and their hearts filled with fright.
And mine's filled with the unimaginable horrors of being carelessly ripped apart from the mortal plane by malevolent and unrelenting entities this Halloween.
Thank you for that image, it's so inspiring.
You are so very welcome. Speaking of inspiring, Arts Centre Melbourne and Arts Centre Victoria are introducing the digital launch of Alter State.
That's right, Kendra. Alter State is an upcoming festival that showcases brilliant disabled artists from Australia and Aotearoa, while the inaugural festival will be held in late 2022. Alter State will introduce a free online program from the 9th to the 13th of November that allows audiences to connect with deaf and disabled artists.
Ranging from artist-featured workshops to discussion panels on codes of conduct for accessing the arts, Alter State is looking to be one incredible festival.
Looks like the winner. And as we know, the winner takes it all. Another winner to look forward to this month is ABBA's latest album, Voyage.
Voyage to the garbage bin, more like.
Mamma mia! You don't like ABBA?
Are you kidding? Old flabby, out of date and irrelevant.
Don't talk about yourself like that.
My parents used to play them to death and now I want to...
Take a chance on me?
No, that's the last thing I want to do.
Give me.
SOS.
Hey, now you're getting into it.
What?
We've officially been out of lockdown for some time now, which means it's back to movies, theatres, galleries and restaurants. What are you most pleased about having gone back, Kendra?
I have gone nowhere.
What?
As soon as lockdown ended, we all had the same instinct. Book everything at every time, everywhere. Unfortunately, my internet connection was kind of slow, so by the time I tried to book anything, everything was already booked up and there was nothing left.
Oh, that is awful.
Yeah, not to mention I feel bad going anywhere because most of my friends are between first and second doses and we can't go anywhere. Freedom is a luxury that the single vax just can't afford.
That's so true. I never thought of it like that. I suppose they're essentially still in a lockdown in some ways.
Yes, us double vax folk need to check our privilege and be grateful because all the single dose people I know are so desperate that they have begun forming gangs and standing outside places they're not allowed to go into, pressing their faces against the glass and watching double vax people live their very best lives.
Oh wow, that is an unsettling image.
Yeah, just a line of people outside a restaurant, theatre or gallery, faces pressed against the glass, just watching people waiting for their day of freedom, I guess.
Well, actually, I'd been nostalgic for the old days recently, so I thought I would dig out my old lockdown list to help you out.
Oh, I am sick of home lockdown activities.
No, you like these. No, you'll really like these ones. Yeah, it's a list of activities I did right before the end of lockdown. Actually, if any law official officers are watching, I didn't do any of these activities at all during lockdown. I was only just contemplating them. Okay?
Oh, I see.
Activity number 1, go outside for social interaction and exercise for 4 hours and 10 minutes.
Whoa, did you really do that?
No, of course not.
Well, number 1 is already the winner. What's the next one?
Activity number 2, leave your home between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. and go outside to a secluded area and scream.
That sounds so fun.
Yes, it was. It was really liberating. Oh, wow. What I mean to say was it would be. I would imagine it would be liberating. Not that I know it was for me. No. Can you arrest someone retroactively for breaking the lockdown restrictions?
Oh, I don't think so. The prisons would overflow. What's activity 3?
Activity number 3, go out for no reason at all, okay? So you're not going out for caregiving, essential work, grocery shopping, vaccination, exercise. You just go outside, you go find a piece of ground and you lie on it flat, okay, within your 15 kilometers.
Okay, I am doing that one today.
And the final one is just a little bit extreme.
Yeah?
Go outside somewhere just past your 15 kilometers.
Damn, how did you not get arrested for doing these things?
Well, I didn't do them.
Thanks, Felicity. That's my weekend plans all settled. Hang in there, single vax people. Soon we'll all be out again and hopefully no one will be creepily watching us from the outside anymore.
Unless you discovered while waiting for your second dose that you actually happened to like doing that.
In which case, you should contact your local GP because there actually might be something wrong with you that's not related to COVID. Nevertheless, here at Offbeat, we've been tasked with assigning a vaccine ambassador to encourage people to get vaccinated. You may know this infamous Australian icon from the film franchise Wolf Creek. However, he is now looking to amend his history of morally questionable acts. Please welcome our vaccine ambassador, Mick Taylor.
G'day everyone, it's bloody Mick Taylor here, on behalf of the Australian government, or something or other. Ready to get stabbed? With the vaccine, of course. Don't worry, I've gone clean since my time in Wolf Creek. Don't you dare be a bludger. I'll see you there. You never know where I might pop up.
We'll be crossing back to our vaccine ambassador, Mick Taylor, to see how he's going with getting people vaccinated. In the meantime, we're going to an ad break, but coming up, we've got an interview with Sean Deveredron, the creative director of Lad Bible and series producer of the new doco-series Unheard, which will be airing on Amazon Prime. So make sure you don't go anywhere. It's going to be an interview that you don't want to miss. Our next guest on Offbeat is Sean Deveredron, creative director of Lad Bible and series producer of a new documentary series, Unheard, which will stream on Amazon Prime from October 29. Here's a look.
Here in Australia, everyone reckons racism doesn't exist when it happens almost every day to a lot of people.
To even suggest that racism is a problem, it's interpreted as if someone is trying to wage a culture war on Australia.
People do treat you differently because of how you look or how they think you look.
It's not spoken about at all until we hit a crisis.
Sean, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure, Kendra.
Just from what we've seen there, this doco is a must-see for every Australian. How long has this project been in the making and what was the impetus for it?
So in 2020, obviously we saw thousands and thousands of Australians taking to the streets, asking for more coverage on racial injustice in Australia. And it raised a very good question. Why is it that most Australians know who George Floyd is, but not many know the names David Dungay Jr. and TJ Hickey? And so, Lad Bible Australia, what we set out to do is use our audience. We reach over 500 million people worldwide, 11.8 million people in Australia. And we wanted to use that audience and start to funnel that towards the organizations that actually, are fighting the good fight every day. Organizations like the National Justice Project, National Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander Legal Services, Asian Australian Alliance, Islamophobia Register, Deadly Connections, Human Rights Commission, all together now, among many others, and essentially started discussing with them how can we lend our audience to support the work that they do. Another big part of the equation was making sure that we had consistent coverage of these issues. I think a lot of Australians wanted that, and I think it's an important thing to do, making sure that coverage is coming from the voices of the people who are experiencing this firsthand. And so we built the Unheard campaign, which launched in February of this year. And we've reached so far globally over 100 million people. We've helped generate over 250,000 signatures for our partner petitions. And as we saw the great response from setting an example across the Australian media landscape and providing one article at least and one video per week to cover these issues, we saw the opportunity to really engage the audience and tell some important stories. And so we worked with our partners and the communities and people that they represent to find emblematic stories that could really kind of describe the situations and the conditions and the treatment that a lot of these communities are subject to. So through that, then we crafted these 6 half-hour episodes, one on Indigenous deaths in custody, one on the targeting of Indigenous youth, one on attacks towards Asians during COVID, attacks on Muslim women in Australia, the treatment of asylum seekers and refugees, and the vilification of the African community. So we felt like we got a nice broad coverage of each of those diverse communities across Oz and really kind of pinpointed a lot of the key issues that we feel need to be addressed and we need to kind of promote global awareness around.
And how did you and your team set about finding people willing to share their stories on such a big platform?
We developed these relationships when we launched the campaign. And so working with our various partners, and they represent those individuals, we asked them who would be willing to share their stories. An important part of the process was making sure that the participants and partners across the documentary series had approvals along the way. We didn't want this to be us singing about another community's issues. We wanted this to be us handing the mic to those communities and saying, we have a fantastic platform that we can reach millions and over 500 million people. And we want to make sure that you have access to that community so you can really kind of share your story and get this, not just awareness, but also the support and action that's required to make tangible change.
Those who don't realise or choose to ignore the problems with racial injustice will be shocked by some of the stories. What insights did making the series reveal to you?
When you watch the documentary series, straight away, you're shocked by a lot of these numbers. Many Australians may have read some of this in newspapers or may have seen some of these segments on the news. But often you're only getting 60 to 90 seconds of the story. And often it's not told from the people who have experienced it. And so spending time with each of these individuals, there are some incredibly shocking statistics. 70% of students of students who come from a non-Anglo background experience racism every day. In 1991, as many people may know, the Royal Commission gave advice to defer Indigenous communities away from incarceration because that was not the solution. And what we've seen over the last 30 years is those numbers doubling. Those kind of statistics are shocking in themselves, but I think what really hit home for me was spending time with each of these individuals, learning about their stories and the impacts that they have on a personal level. And that's what we tried to do with each of these episodes is make sure that people were connecting on a human level. There's stories about a mother losing their son, and there's stories about a daughter who was assaulted with taking her mother out to the theatre. I think that's something that everyone can relate to. And then as we delve into those personal stories, we begin to provide those statistics to say, look, this isn't an isolated incident. This is happening all the time. And we start to explore the broader issues. And I think, that's something that impacted me deeply is learning how commonplace a lot of these stories are.
So why do you believe many people have such a hard time talking about racism and its impacts if it is so prevalent today?
There aren't systems put in place that are really monitoring what's going on. The thousands of reports that happen each year in Australia, only 20 people have ever been charged of hate crimes. And that's in the history of Oz. And what Jamie Young said on the back of that was, it's got to a point where we just need to tell the stories and sit uncomfortably with them for a while. And I think that's been, historically, that's been really difficult for us to admit that these things are happening and to really delve into those stories. We feel like with this campaign, driving awareness and driving support, as well as the documentary series, that we can do that we can share these stories, that we can connect, whether you're from this community or not, really kind of help people connect with them and realize this is an issue that we need to address And first, we need to acknowledge that it's a problem before we can move forward.
So many of the stories people have shared come from people who have witnessed racial violence, and it's not always clear the best way to react to the situation. For fear of escalating it, what are some thoughts on what to do from this?
Our first steps need to be acknowledging that, there's an issue here. And, in the case of one episode we have on attacks towards 2 young girls in Marrickville during the COVID pandemic, I think, what they felt was a fear to go to police and make these reports, because they felt like they weren't understood and they felt like they'd need proof. And it's almost, and I think this is with a lot of cases that we described throughout the series, is that going through that process re-traumatizes these people. They're already going through these hugely traumatic events, and to have to constantly prove, I guess, that something happened, it can really kind of keep those wounds open. And so what I think we can do from now is really start to acknowledge that there is an issue, and perhaps look at ways we can more sensitively start to address these incidents, how we record them, how we report them, how we respond to them, and the laws that are set up to protect communities like this.
Already close to 1 million people have signed to support the fight against racial injustice. How can people watching the show their support and take action?
So as it's been with the campaign since launch in February, each of the 6 half-hour episodes that are going on Amazon Prime Video, at the end of each episode, what we do is drive that audience to support our relative partners and the participants involved. And that's going directly to their platforms to make sure that, okay, people are being made aware, but we're also starting to funnel that audience into their platforms so they can support their petitions, they can donate, they can join volunteer programs. So, the potential that we have is to reach our global audience at Lab Bible Australia of over 500 million, but also adding on to that, potentially Amazon Prime Video's global audience of over 175 million. So there's a huge amount of numbers that we can reach and hopefully engage them to be able to support these issues. And that's what we hope to do.
Well, thank you so much, Sean, for talking to us. That's all the questions we had. Unheard is Lad Bible's first feature documentary series and will be available to stream globally on Amazon Prime from October 29. So everyone, make sure you give it a watch. And thank you so much again, Sean, for joining us. It's been a really good chat about Unheard.
Thanks for having me, Kendra. Absolute pleasure.
Welcome to Kendra's new podcast, The Horrifying Truth Behind Offbeat.
What?
Sorry, just thought I'd squeeze in a little side project. In recent news, Australian comic Dan Eilick has taken in a billboard at Times Square, mocking the Australian government for their attitude towards global warming. The billboard caught media attention around the world and even caught the attention of our Prime Minister, Scotty from Marketing.
Old Scotty from Marketing has since spent his time in self-imposed home quarantine to come up with some new billboards he wants to market in major cities around the world. We at Offbeat have an exclusive look at some of these billboards.
For the first billboard, the federal government have partnered with Tourism Queensland to help bring international tourists back to the Sunshine State now that the borders are open.
What do you think will go in its place?
Old Scotty from Marketing is in talks of building the world's first floatable museum, showcasing the wonders of coal. During the recent home quarantines, Scotty has broadened his musical taste from Hillsong, Hillsong United and Hillsong Kids to the Beatles after reading a quote from John Lennon stating that they were bigger than Jesus, which inspired this billboard.
We all live in a...
Don't sing anymore, we don't have permission to do this song.
Yellow nuclear-powered submarine.
And finally, after a difficult 2 years with COVID, the Australian federal government have finally decided to spread the Christmas cheer.
According to sources at the Prime Minister's office, Scotty is planning to make a petition to make Santa Claus move his establishment to Christmas Island once the North Pole melts.
Speaking of petitions, the government is trying to incentivise people through cash to ride bikes instead of cars to decongest traffic and help the environment. We thought it would kill just enough time to fill this episode with talking to a government official, Mouse Star, to get his insight on the cash incentive to ride bikes.
There's been talk lately about encouraging Melburnians to leave their cars at home and ride bicycles into the CBD instead. A report commissioned by Melbourne City Council recommends incentives such as interest-free loans to encourage purchases of e-bikes, charging tolls for drivers who cruise through the CBD without stopping, fares for parking in the city, replacing curbside parking with planter boxes. Wait, what about us? What about the people that like driving into the city each and every day? That bumper-to-bumper commute down Punt Road is the only time of my day where my kids aren't screaming constantly down my ears and I don't have to worry about going half mad from the constant pressure of my job. When I'm driving, I have a cast iron excuse to not respond to my wife's texts about how disappointed she is in our marriage, which she sends a lot of, all goddamn day. But now, you can still have time to yourself while riding a bike to work. Well, maybe I like to get to work in air-conditioned comfort, Sandra. Did you ever think of that? But Mal, riding to and from work has benefits for your health and well-being, which is just your way of telling me you haven't been physically attracted to me in years, Sandra. I know, okay? I know. But Mal, less cars on the road means better traffic flow. Well, maybe I want my route home to be as long and congested as possible, because it's the only time I get in the day to truly be myself, between a soul-crushing job and a loveless marriage. But Mal, you said the therapy sessions were actually working. Gee, Sandra, maybe someone should incentivize me to actually go to them. Maybe if my no-good, horrible, toxic job paid me to go to them. At least then I'd finally get something out of it. Authorised by Marvin Malstar, CEO, Vic Roads.
We're just about to wrap up this episode. A big thank you to Sean Deverdren for coming on the show today to talk about his upcoming incredible new doco-series, Unheard, which will air on Amazon Prime October 29th. But it'd also be remiss of me if we didn't check in one last time with Mick Taylor to see how he is going with getting people vaccinated.
That's not a vaccine. This is a vaccine.